Life through the lenses. Cut, said Edward, my boyfriend of 4 years. I sighed and stopped recording at once. Ed was very particular about his YouTube videos and it showed. I made sure to play the supportive boyfriend role though, and despite my own busy work schedule, I helped him out the best as I could. Ed started his YouTube channel after we graduated from university. Instead of pursuing a med school, he decided that he wanted to take some time off and start a channel. It had always been a dream of his, and although his parents, who were doctors themselves, were surprised at this decision, they extended their support wherever Ed was happy. His channel was a good mix of vlogs, cooking videos, and other random interesting clips. Okay, I think we've got all the footage now, he announced after looking over the clips we filmed over the past few hours. Thank you so much, love. He was evidently exhausted from all the talking and smiling on camera, but still made it a point to thank me. He leaned in for a hug and kissed me passionately. Anytime, I replied. I am so proud of you. The bark of our bitch on fries, Fifi, interrupted our little moment. I picked up our furry friend and squished her in for a three-way hug. That was my little family. We lived in a polished apartment located in Greenwich Village, New York City, which was gifted to us by Ed's parents when we first moved in together. It was everything and more that I could have ever wanted. I never envisioned myself living in such a busy and massive city after graduation. Coming from a small town in Georgia, I imagined residing in a peaceful city after graduation. But then I met Ed, and to support his career on YouTube, we decided in unison that we were going to live in New York. I put Fifi down after our little moment and headed to the kitchen to prepare our dinner. I wanted to cook poached salmon with asparagus as an after-work treat for me and Ed, but before I got to work, I felt his strong arms around my waist as he rested his chin on my shoulder. Why don't we order in? He asked. I mean, we've filmed pretty much the whole afternoon and evening. The last thing I want is to get you even more tired. I smiled, grateful that he was still so thoughtful and sweet after all these years. You sure? You've worked all day. I just thought maybe you wanted something home-cooked. He turned me around and pecked me on the nose. Hey, you worked all morning too, plus you helped me out with my videos, so stop that. I'm ordering. What do you feel like eating? Sushi, I suggested. Bet. Later that night, we bundled up on our couch while wolfing down our order from a sushi place called Annom. We were binge watching the new season of Bridgerton while having dinner when Ed suddenly paused. Almost forgot, he said while reaching out for his messenger bag on a nearby stool. Okay, close your eyes. I raised an eyebrow and casted him a quizzical look, but I followed his instruction and closed my eyes. He placed an envelope in my hands and said I could open it up. I opened my eyes and gently peeled the envelope, revealing 2 tickets to a Les Miserables play in a few days. No way, I exclaimed. These were sold out almost instantaneously. How did you even? He grinned widely, revealing his perfect rows of white teeth. Well, when we didn't get them and I saw you were pretty upset, so I contacted someone I knew, but they couldn't secure the tickets too because they were so high in demand. He explained. So I ended up getting them from a reseller. Thought it'd make you happy. I wrapped my arms around him before kissing him repeatedly on the lips and all over his face. I put my forehead to his, my wide blue eyes meeting his stunning green ones. You make me happy, I replied. I love you. I love you. That Friday, we headed to Majestic Theater to catch the 8 p.m. show of Les Mis. We were dressed to the nines, Ed looking dapper in a black long-sleeved shirt while I sported a beige cashmere turtleneck and a neat black coat. It was a chilly New York night, so we bundled up with our scarves, which came handy as we were lining up to get into the theater. Hand in hand, we waited in line. Even in silence, static and unmoving, I found myself pondering over how lucky I had been to find Edward when I did. He caught me glancing at him intently and gave a small smile. What are you thinking, huh? He asked, playfully tickling my right side. I giggled. Just how lucky I am to have you. I'm so damn lucky I get to have nights like this with you by my side. I gushed. I truly was. At times, I even stare at him while he was asleep and think that I could do that for the rest of my life. I really could though, and while marriage was a topic that we had discussed before, we never truly made any plans. Soon after, we were seated in the middle of the theater, awaiting the start of my beloved play. We did order some martinis that they were selling at the venue for those of age. I had seen the show once with my parents and my brother when I was 16, and 10 years later, I was here in New York City watching it with the love of my life. It made my heart flutter knowing that he was the one who got these tickets for me. I was always amazed at how attentive and caring he was. While I supported him in his career, he reciprocated that support in every area of my life imaginable, be it in work or simply the things I felt strongly towards, such as musical plays, books, and television shows. He would listen to me babble about everything and anything I was passionate about. He was not a big fan of plays himself, but thoroughly invested himself in the ones I loved so we can discuss them and share our thoughts. In fact, we met during the intermission of a local production of the musical play Mamma Mia, which Ed watched to support his sister who played the role of Lisa at that time. It was very cliché, but Ed was with his parents and getting a drink during the break between the theater acts when he bumped into me, spilling wine all over my dapper white long-sleeve top. He later on let me borrow his jacket to cover up the massive stain and offered to get my top to the dry cleaners. The rest was history. To this date, I treasured our Broadway dates because it was where we started. And as I held his hand that night, being serenaded to Marius and Cassette's duet during A Heart Full of Life, I prayed that one day, we would be going to another play with our children. That was amazing. I loved the actress who played Eponine. She was so damn on point, and that set design is just, ugh, chef's kiss. I rambled as we were heading out of the theater and to the streets. Ed took my hand and pulled me closer. "I'm so glad you had fun, my love," he said. "Thank you for taking me. You know how much it means to me." He pecked my nose before rearranging my scarf and tightening my jacket. "Let's go. I don't want you freezing your Les Mis fanboy ass off and getting a cold out here. Let's head home, darling." Speaking of home, that weekend, we both had decided that we would take Sunday off. I suggested that we do a general cleaning since we usually were too busy with work to get any real cleaning done. The last time we did proper cleaning of our apartment was probably almost a month ago when we had dinner with both of our parents in our place. I recalled Ed's mom and my mom gushing over how well maintained our place was. Ed and I looked at each other from across the table, trying to suppress our sly smiles. If only they knew that I found some of Ed's few weeks old socks under the couch just the day before in an attempt to deep clean our apartment. We both toasted our wine glasses as they went on about our growth, and even went as far as congratulating us for embracing adulthood. My father even said we were ready for marriage. Thoroughly amused, Ed and I toasted and hid our knowing smiles behind our wine glasses, while Ed wiped the kitchen countertops, as he should, given that he dirties the hell out of them during his cooking videos. I vacuumed our bedroom. The rowdy noise of the vacuum allowed me to tune out Edward's chosen album of the day, Olivia Rodrigo's Sour. I was not a hater, but neither was I a fan. Ed, on the other hand, was downright obsessed with the record and any pop girls songs in general. 3 hours and 3 of Ed's socks found later. Our apartment was squeaky clean. "Finally, you'll stop sneezing out of nowhere," joked Ed as he passed me a Coca-Cola bottle from our fridge. I rolled my eyes jokingly. "And finally, we can live up to the adults that our parents think we are," I bantered. He let out a loud chuckle, startling Fifi, who was chilling on a nearby couch. "Here's to the well-mannered, responsible adults that Edward and Chance grew into." He offered a toast. "Well-mannered, responsible adults who shove their laundry underneath surfaces sometimes," I replied. The rest of that Sunday was spent binge-watching the rest of Bridgerton while Ed edited a vlog. Our ice skating experience a few weeks back. I was cuddled up on the couch with my massive wool blanket while Fifi made himself comfortable in between me and Ed. I relish slow days like this because we did not have them very frequently. Although we were never too busy that we do not have time for each other on normal workdays, we were not too free either that we could spend the day lounging around and just enjoying each other's presence. Prior to meeting Edward, I was more of an outgoing outdoor person. I loved to spend time outside and at times only really went home to get changed or sleep. But then we moved in together and I preferred chill days when we could just enjoy each other's presence. To say I was content was an understatement. I had a job that I felt passionate about. I had a partner who had a stable career and supported me in doing the things I love. I had a pet who could brighten even our darkest of days. Things were in place. They were definitely not perfect though. Like any other couple, we had our downs. A few weeks back, we even had an argument in public. Thankfully, none of it went viral or anything because the last thing I wanted was to harm Ed's public image. He was a good guy, and while conflict was inevitable, I would rather it stayed between us. That particular incident, however, surely did not stay between us. It was like a sidewalk yelling kind of argument that was not my proudest moment. In retrospect, it could have been avoided. It was a particularly exhausting day at work. It was a Sunday, our usual off day, but most employees were present that day. Eaton Publishing House was attempting to secure a multi-million-dollar book deal from a group of authors, so everyone was intently working and doing their part in the negotiation. I had been working on drafts of the new contract with compromised terms when my phone rang repeatedly, signaling multiple text messages. My boss needed the contract as soon as possible, and I did not think the texts from Ed were that urgent, otherwise he would have called. I was typing vigorously and reviewing the contents intently so I could finally head out for lunch. It was past 3 when my good friend and co-worker, Charles, and I headed out of the office to the nearby salad bar. To my surprise, seated on the bench directly outside the publishing house was Ed. Immediately, I knew I had been a dick for ignoring his text messages, but I was just so sucked into my work at that moment until I forgot to reply. My man, despite his own hectic schedule and countless work commitments, made it a point to wait for me in the cold despite my lack of replies. "Hey, I've been texting you," he greeted me with a quick peck. "I thought we could head for lunch." "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, darling." I apologized profusely. "The deal I was telling you about last night. Well, everyone's just frantically working on it, so I lost track of time." "All good, love. You must be starving. I texted you, asking you if you wanted anything actually." I smiled at his thoughtfulness. "Thank you, darling," I said, pulling him for a bear hug. I realized he had not eaten lunch either, despite it being late in the afternoon already. He greeted Charles briefly, and together as a trio, we headed over to the adjacent restaurant. To say that Charles and Ed were in good terms was a reach. They were acquainted with each other as I introduced Charles one time after work, but due to their lack of common interest and, I suppose, Charles' more reserved nature, they were not that friendly. I simply brushed this off during lunch and merely conversed with Charles about the Eaton deal we were working on. Occasionally, Ed would give his input, but otherwise ate his salad in peace. He then fetched me from work later that night too, after doing our grocery shopping by himself for that week. Upon seeing him outside the publishing house's office, I gave him a quick peck, and he even took my satchel from me and carried it. "Thanks for waiting for me again," I said, pulling him closer. I was babbling about my day and how Charles finally secured the deal, but realized right away that he was being quite rigid and did not quite have the usual warmth he radiated. "Anything wrong?" I asked, glancing at him, but he did not meet my eye and continued to walk towards our apartment complex emotionless. We only lived a stone's throw away from my office. "Look, I've been waiting for 2 hours out there tonight, and the moment I finally have you to myself, you're still going on about Charles and whatever heroics he had done today," he said, raising his voice significantly. "Love, I want to hear all about your wins and the amazing things you've done. But all day, you've ignored me, and even at lunch, you barely spoke to me. And now we're alone and still, you're speaking of your goddamn office mate. Well, he did secure the important deal today that we were working on, so I just wanted to share," I yelled, abruptly stopping. I know, Edward said softly, "but I just want to hear all about you for a second, okay? No Charles, no other office mate, no Eaton publishing house. Just you, okay? Just us." I softened up, realizing that I had been very wrong in this situation too. Instead of appreciating the fact that my boyfriend constantly waited for me and braved the cold just to spend a bit of time with me this Sunday, I was too invested in my work and gave more thought about my workmates than him. "I'm sorry, darling," I approached him, giving him a tight hug and a peck on the nose. I put our foreheads together and breathed in his masculine scent. "I'm sorry for ignoring your texts and being nonchalant about your effort to be with me today. It was a very rough day at work and I was just sucked into it. I'll make it up to you." He said he understood and ushered me into our apartment, where he had prepared a hearty dinner of aglio olio and ribeye steak. As we consumed our sumptuous homemade meal that night, he broke a crucial news that made my heart drop. He had reached a milestone in his YouTube career, hitting 1 million subscribers earlier that morning. I had missed it and a pang of guilt engulfed me. I reached out for his hand across the table as my mouth dropped. I teared up, mostly because I was so extremely proud of him, but also because I was so self-absorbed that I missed such an important milestone in his life. I then promised to make it up to him and showered him with so much love that night. It was not my proudest moment and I deeply regretted that. But we all make mistakes, and Ed forgave me, so I forgave myself too. I definitely learned from that night and ensured that I was more present and in the moment. My sensitivity and thoughtfulness towards Ed heightened for sure, which was why on the day that he received his gold play button, I offered to be his cameraman during the unboxing to show my support, and also capture yet another important moment of his life. He squealed when he received the box containing the play button, and it warmed my heart to see the love of my life achieving his goals. "I am so happy for you, love," I exclaimed, aware that I could be heard in the video that I was taking for his channel, but I did not care. I wanted the world to know how proud I was of Ed. Most deserving ever. It was true. I saw how he toiled and how much detail and effort he put into his craft. I was there making mugs of tea on days that he needed to distress due to the sheer amount of deadlines that he had for brand partnerships. I bought him to-go cups of coffee and at times brewed them myself when he would have to stay up late editing a video. I saw how he broke down during rocky patches when no video inspiration would strike him or he felt like his content lately was too bland. Opening this bad boy up now, he gushed to the camera, holding his cutter up and waving it enthusiastically. He was grinning from ear to ear and his happiness was so contagious. I was beaming from behind the camera too. Even Fifi was watching him from her usual spot on the couch. When he whipped out the gold play button, his mouth dropped in disbelief before he broke into another wide beam. He was so elated. He squealed and held the gold plaque out for the camera to see. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel and devotedly watching my weekly vlogs. It means so much to me that you helped make my dreams come true, he expressed to his viewers. But more importantly, thank you to the man behind this camera right now. To my surprise, he flipped the camera that I was holding to my face and momentarily focused on me. I was astonished and I covered my mouth with my hand, evidently shy and not ready for the camera. He then came over to my side and put his chin on my shoulder while he pointed the camera at us. Without my boyfriend, Chance, who worked behind the scenes on this channel with me, he helped me reach for my dreams even as he built his own career. He's an amazing literary agent. By the way, if you didn't already know, he shared. Butterflies were all over my stomach because while our relationship was known to his audience, I usually preferred not to be all over his videos as I did not want to freeload on the fame he had worked so hard for. But him expressing his gratitude publicly made me ecstatic and I could not even hide it on my face even if I tried. I was grinning like a fool and also blushing, but I did not care. Without him, I wouldn't even gone as far as 100 subscribers, let alone 1 million. So thank you, darling, for your unwavering support. He finished off before leaning in for a kiss. To my surprise, he did not stop recording during our deep and passionate kiss. Afterwards, with the camera still pointed at us and recording, he perched it on a nearby bookshelf and got to his knee. My heart was pounding and it seemed as though everything else around us came to a standstill. I was focused on him and him alone as he got down on his knee and asked. The gold play button I received today was an embodiment of years of hard work and perseverance, and none of it would be possible without you. But then there is something even more important and immeasurable right in front of me, and that is you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you and I am hoping you share the same sentiments. Chance Carterson, will you marry me? Yes, I squealed. We shared another kiss before he wrapped up his video by showing the both of us as I showed off my engagement ring. It felt right that we were sharing this intimate moment of our lives with his audience. After all, this would be my life from now as a proud husband to be of a YouTube vlogger. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our rainbow force and stay wholesome.